Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our heart. Mother of darkness, mother of light, earth beneath us, soul in flight, songs of love and love of life, guide us to our
Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, sing it unto me, the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
Hey, maybe I should turn the volume on, huh? Hi, guys. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. We're being broadcast live on Truth Frequency Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn and TalkStream Live, and in YouTube. Hello, YouTube. And if you are listening in on YouTube, make sure you do hit that like, the thumbs up button, and subscribe so you'll know when I'm on air, because I do the occasional 3-cent video every so often, and if you want to know when those are landing, you got to have the subscribe and the bell and everything else. So you can also catch me on the podcast, and that can be found the spaces between any place you can find a podcast, like iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify, etc., etc. And so yep. And if you want to support the show, you can always check out the Etsy shop. It is www.etsy.com/Monarch Mountain Studio. Mountain is MTN. And the spaces between .live, and also the Patreon, which hey, guess what? If you're not part of Patreon, you don't know what I added today. Pop quiz. So it's www.patreon.com/the spaces between. So in the chat rooms, I see Todd. Hi, Todd. And no voter ID. Okay. I kind of go with that one. And then off in YouTube, I see Blondie Lady, Cameron, Nace, Elaine, Hestia, Pam, Jessica, Nessie, and hey, look, there's me. So I hope y'all are having just a jolly good evening as you're dealing with the insanity of the season. Huh. Interesting. I was going to say the call line is open, but apparently it is not tonight. I am being solo. I'm not sure what's up with that. I'll see what I can figure out later. I had a technology update. Those are so much fun. Hey, Lewis. So, yeah, it's all good. And so I guess just send me an email. It's wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. No worries, Lewis. It's on YouTube. You can catch it. He says he missed last night's show. Brent, I did give him that charm. He and I had been talking about kind of doing a ghost hunting thing, and he's worried about the protections. And so I did a little bit of kind of a chant with some knot magic, and then I put some other things to kind of enhance it. And Hi, Cam. You were here. And I put it all in some other stuff in a little jar and sealed it up with some wax and kind of bound it all together with some copper wire. So, for me, when I'm doing stuff like that, often the chant, I'll write it down, I'll plot it out because there are certain things and elements in it that I really feel are appropriate. And if I'm doing like a spell jar or a charm or any kind of ritual work or spell casting, that kind of thing, I'll often do some research, make sure I've got the elements, the key elements accurate, the central ones. And I did organize my crafting area so I can find all my stuff. And so I'll have my key elements, whatever those are. And then some of the other things that I might feel are necessary when it comes to protection or whatever my purpose is for the charm. And I generally have a visualization of what I want it to look like. So that was cool. And so I add the enters or the basics, the keys, and knot work. I did the chant with the knot work. Then I did a separate one as I was sealing everything up. So yeah, just kind of a whole process. And it's there's a loop on it so you can wear it on a necklace, or it's small enough you can fit it in your pocket. So when you're doing stuff like that, often they don't have to be very big or major. They can be often small. I mean, if you're watching Paranormal Portal, you know that the charm that I gave Brent is actually pretty small, and it's only maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches tall tops, and seriously. Now something else. Today, Minnie Paisley and I were doing some of those timeout bottles. You get the plastic bottle, and you add glitter glue and glitter and some other stuff and water. You shake it all up and glue the lid on, that kind of thing. And I got to thinking, those timeout bottles, they're often very soothing and therapeutic because you can watch the glitter fall and everything. It's kind of like a snow globe on slow. And if you wanted to do something like that as a gift for someone, and you wanted to use it like a spell jar, you absolutely could, because you're putting your intent into it as you're creating it. So, Minnie Paisley and I added just some fun stuff because the goal was to be fun. But you can choose like the color of glitter to coincide with whatever it is you want to accomplish. And we added some beads and some other miscellaneous stuff, and yeah, it was fun. So that's something that often people have nowadays, especially if they have children. And it's also, not considered very pagan or witchy, but you can definitely put your intention in there. So, as you're going. Tonight's topic, as the chat room is going off, is tattoos and paganism. So yesterday being Friday the 13th, I went and got a brand new tattoo. I got an acorn, and I don't know if I have enough light here. Nope. Awkward space, awkward turn. Trying to find the camera. There it is. It's an acorn. And I mentioned last night I got the acorn because of I feel like I am called by Caninos, and for me, a symbology there is the oak tree, and that journey really took off because of an acorn. So that was definitely mine. Oh, hi, Sanya. Thanks for joining. Yes, I'm looking forward to your tattoo in January, and this is my second one. My first one I can't show you, and it's a dragon, and I've had that one for like 25 years, I think. And I, when I was talking to the tattoo artist yesterday, I was like, what can we do to maybe cover this up? So I'm probably going to connect with him to see what we're doing, what we might be able to come up with as a cover up. And I've got a couple others plotted out. But it seems like, tattoos right now are pretty mainstream. Yes, I do need a squirrel, Jessica. Or an oak leaf, or I don't know. All I can think of is Ice Age and the little squirrel, the saber-toothed squirrel. And, you know, so many tattoos. And some people get them because they're fun, some get them because they're creative and an artistic expression, and some get them as a way to rebel against their family or things, who knows. And some tattoos really are representative of their journey and their path. And a very close friend of mine died about, oh gosh, it's been a year already, almost. Isn't that crazy? And she had the triple moon across her forehead, which I personally think is pretty doggone gutsy. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about tattoos on the face, but that one was pretty out there. It's really putting your craft, your faith, yourself out there for the world to see. And I don't know if I'm quite ready to come quite that far out of the broom closet. I don't know. We'll play that one by ear. But she was also a high priestess, and so her tattoos may have been indicative of her level of attainment in her traditions. So, and I've seen that with other priestesses also, and priests, facial tattoos, noting that they have achieved a certain level of progress or level in the hierarchy. And I don't know. Facial tattoos are not for everybody, and they're really hard to erase in general. So they're not like your temporary tattoos. Anyways, kind of going off on a tangent there. So, basically, people have been doing tattooing and scarification of one sort or another just for a long time. I think they've been found, mummies that have had tattoo work on them from pre 3000 BC. So they've been around. Tattoos have been around for a while, just for a while. They've often been the mark of warriors, or priests, priestesses, chieftains, royalty. And also, the classes, various classes, and identification, as in like, with the Nazi regime and all that. So, sometimes tattoos are not good. But, in general, often tattoos will, mark a person's social standing, whatever that is. And there is a huge history regarding tattoos and their meanings, and it varies with one culture to the next. So tonight, just kind of really focusing on some of the pagan imagery and meanings. And I really like my little acorn, so that's why I'm talking about it. And the acorn really has a lot of meaning for me. So for me, the acorn has self-meaning. So a lot of folks will have like the ring tattoos, that's a thing, symbolizing your relationship with a significant other. So, and that's awesome. So, that's just a different symbolism, because I know a lot of people can't wear jewelry. And so that's something very specific to the self. And even the location of that tattoo can have as much meaning as the symbolism of the tattoo. So like something on the forehead with the priests or the priestesses, that's probably showing a certain level of attainment and in the hierarchy. And that's just kind of unique, I guess. You can even have different colors, whether like green could be money or prosperity, or you could have a sigil of some sort tattooed upon you to accomplish a specific purpose, like protection, that kind of thing. So, every visual has some sort of meaning, and that meaning then has power. And it's important, though, to realize that a symbol is often defined by the significance with which you attribute it to. So that intention that you are putting into the tattoo or the artwork. And so, a color or a shape or a different symbol could have different meanings for each different people, even within the different cultures. And again, so before you do select a tattoo, do your research, understand what you're getting into, make sure you're selecting a good shop, someone that knows what they're doing. Tattoo at your own risk. I'm not saying do it. But if you want to, you only live once. Actually, you only die once. You live every day. So we should change that. You live every day. You only die once. Get the tattoo. Life's short. Enjoy it. But make sure you get that tattoo that you really want. And remember, they're really hard to erase. There's a lot of money involved, and lasers, or sometimes knives, and just scary stuff. So, so just be aware. Practice safe tattooing. So the first one is actually pretty common. A lot of folks who are pagans or witches will have a pentagram tattooed upon them. And the pentagram is just a 5-pointed star with a circle around it. Typically, the pentagram or pentacle represents earth, water, air, fire, and spirit. Wiccans often use it as a symbol of their faith. And the circle around the pentagram represents protection, casting a circle prior to doing a ritual or something. And also the ever-changing and everlasting circle of life, or the wheel of life and nature. And as an unbroken line, the circle also, kind of gives a nod to eternity or infinity. It never ends, it's pretty cool. So, now Wiccans and witches, pagans generally depict pentagrams point up rather than point down, and that's because the point down is generally considered a sigil for Baphomet in Satanism. So if you're looking for something more Wiccan or witchy, make sure you got the star pointed the right direction, and is properly situated. Now, little known fact, in early Christian history, the pentagram also depicted the 5 wounds of Jesus Christ. So that's why the pentagraph is a very common motif in Freemasonry. So, random factoid. I've got a lot of them. Just real quick before I go any further. Yes. Be cautious of where you're putting your tattoo, because as we age, our bodies change shape. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, or active or inactive or anything. Life happens, and our skin loses some resiliency, and we may get a little fluffier in different areas, or not as fluffy, or things just happen and gravity pulls everything downwards. So be aware that some of those tattoos that you get may distort a little bit over time, and that's normal. Colors will often fade over time, and that's normal too. My dragon, it's up here on my chest. I'll probably get it touched up, partly because it's faded a lot. I've had it for 25 years, rapidly approaching 30. So I got it at Sturgis, actually. So yeah, and this is really, really interesting. And so tribal tattoos are an entirely different topic that I'm not going into tonight. But there's some very, very cool tribal tattoos and iconography. The triquetra, which is a fun word to say. Now the triquetra. Yes, so Todd in TFR chat wants to know if it stretches like text on a balloon. Yes, it can, depending on where you're at. So think of, the young 20-something gal that gets sexy beast tattooed across her tummy, underneath her belly button. It's not me. I have seen this. It made me laugh because then she got pregnant, and everything stretched out, and sexy beast was no longer quite so trim, and so, and the words distorted and everything. So yeah, it just, things do change. That skinny girl you had on your hip or your arm, if you put on some weight for whatever reason, may no longer be a skinny girl, may be kind of a chunky one. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just be aware. There's some distortion if your skin stretches. So back to the triquetra. Now, it was originally discovered, or first discovered, I guess, on some runestones or ancient runestones in Northern Europe. And so the triquetra has been ascribed to pagan roots or Celtic roots. And it's generally considered a very Celtic symbol. Visually, it's kind of an entanglement of 3 petals, and the petal is a symbol of the goddess. And the symbol of the triquetra has expanded to represent the combination of the 3 elements, such as the past, present, and future. And it often makes an interesting choice for, sisters, like 3 sisters get together. And it's often a very graceful looking image or mark. And in Ireland, for instance, the triquetra is considered a triple knot, and it bears a promise of love, honor, and protect. It's often seen on pendants and other trinkets and such. Christianity uses the triquetra as well. I can't say that word very often because I'm going to trip over it. Because the 3 petals can represent the Holy Trinity, the Father, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And then paganism, the triquetra often represents the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone, the 3 aspects of the goddess. Yes, Nessie, the triquetra was common imagery that was shown on the show, or visible in the show Charmed. And tramp stamp. Tramp stamp, Nese, is a tattoo that women specifically, or men, may get along their lower back. And often it says something kind of racy, and basically it was not necessarily racy. Some of it's pretty, but mostly we just call them tramp stamps because if your britches ride too low, your shirt rides up a little bit, and it just kind of shows off a little bit of skin. So, anyways, the next one was the triple moon, and that's with the waxing crescent, the full moon, and the waning crescent all together. And the triple moon represents the moon phases, and also the maiden and the mother and the crone progression of the goddess. And the waxing moon stands for the maiden and symbolizes purity, youth, new life, beginnings, rejuvenation, excitement, enchantment, expansion. That's why new moon, you're setting your intentions for the full moon and such. And the full moon generally represents the mother. So this represents fulfillment, fertility, ripeness, potency, compassion, giving, caring, nurturing, protection, power. There's a lot of power in the full moon. And then the waxing moon represents the crone, which kind of stands for maturity, wisdom, experience, knowledge, understanding, completion, death, and then rebirth. And so in its entirety, the triple moon is a very powerful symbol, and it's also believed to signify the cycle of life, the birth, life, death, and rebirth, just the ongoing. And the triple the triple moon is also called the triple goddess symbol, and it's an icon that's generally associated with crowns or headpieces that are worn by high priestesses or high priests that follow the goddess. The horned god is a horizontal moon shape or crescent moon shape with a full circle underneath. And this symbol often represents the masculine polarity of the universe, and has been connected to the ancient gods of the hunt and vegetation. And so the horned god symbol has roots in Europe, of course, and it dates back to Paleolithic times. And so one of the first sightings was actually in a cave on a cave wall in France, and they think it was done around 13,000 BC, so it's been around for a while. And this image is also called the sorcerer because it's also considered to be a depiction of the Great Spirit or the master of animals. And then in Greek, in Egyptian mythology, Osiris was considered the horned god of fertility, rebirth, and the underworld. And then in Celtic paganism, it's the god Cernunnos, and he's often depicted with horns as well. And he's often associated with fertility, not necessarily, but often, and animals, life, and then wealth. So another very powerful image when we're talking about paganism. I'm going to stop there before we move on to the next, mostly because, hey, can you believe it's been 30 minutes already? Time goes by when you just talk to yourself, I guess. So if you want to send me a message, that would be great. That is wildpaisley@gmail.com, WILDEPAISLEY@gmail.com. If you want to get some last minute Christmas presents, by all means, check out the Etsy shop. That's www.etsy.com/Monarch Mountain Studio, and MTN for mountain. And we'll continue talking about tattoos after the break. And oh, goodness gracious. I will be right back. Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're adventuring off into the spaces between. And tonight we're talking about tattoos and some of the symbology behind tattoos, and why people get them. I mean, I got my first one mostly because I like dragons, and I was at Sturgis, and it seemed like a good idea. The pr- the price was right, and
Fears the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks.
hold on, guys.
Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about.
Hello, my lovely. So, yeah. Hey, I got music.
Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me, the songs of Mother Goddess and of Father in the tree.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we're back, adventuring into the spaces between. And I hope everyone's having just a lovely Saturday night. And so yeah, we're just talking about tattoos and some of the symbology behind tattoos. And it's tattoos been around for a while. You see people with them all over the place. People in prison get them. They make their own tattoo guns out of bits and pieces, and
cassette motors and guitar strings.
Okay, anybody that's been around the last 20 years probably has no idea what a cassette is. Just saying.
That's true.
So, yeah, no. I don't know. There's all sorts of different ways to do tattoos. Basic, needle and ink, special ink. You want to just, break open a Bic and slather it in. That's not the way it works, guys.
Would you like me to tell you how they make ink in prison?
I probably don't want to
Okay,
know.
then.
Is this scary or gross?
Yeah, it's gross.
Okay, nope.
Okay, we'll skip it.
No need for me to know that then, because I have no.
I'm going to sit over here and eat my pizza then.
All right, you do that. Yeah, there's the home jobbies, and there's scarification, where you just kind of cut yourself and you rub the ink in, which is an entirely different thing. And anybody who goes to Wish, you can actually they have tattoo guns on Wish for impossibly cheap money. So all I can think is it's kind of like tattooing Barbie. That's probably about the quality you're gonna get. So but so yeah, I'm moving on. The next tattoo to talk about, or imagery, is it's called the blessing. So basically, the blessing is something that's generally associated with a goddess, and it's a horizontal crescent, and it's got 3 drops coming down underneath of it. And this symbol generally represents the blessings of the moon goddess. And the teardrops are known to represent the mother, the maiden, and the crone. And And it's, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking I need this one too. It's one of my to-do list. The spiral goddess is a very common image when it comes to paganism and witches and Wicca, and basically it's that kind of teardrop-looking shape, feminine shape. So the kind of a point down at the end, you can see the hips, and then it's kind of the true hourglass, and the arms are arced up over the head of the figurine, and it's got the spiral in the waist. Oh, yes, I do have a figurine. Haha. So, kind of looks like this. Yes, I made that. It's in my my rune box. Anyway, so that one is often associated with fertility, and the spiral goddess image generally represents the continuation of life, death, and rebirth. So a lot of the imagery that we talk about or that we see in paganism do have some connection to life, death, and then rebirth. And it's very common to find those little statuettes in that standard goddess shape with the spiral on the belly, because the spiral represents creative power within that rises from our sacral chakra. Not that I can talk, and it's a chakra that often corresponds with the feminine menstrual cycle, our desires or sexuality, and also relationships. I just can't talk suddenly. Blah. The next one is Earth. When talking about the elements, so Earth is generally depicted as an inverted triangle with a line through it, and one of the first of the four main symbols. Earth has ties to invoking Mother Earth and is used in spells for abundance, fertility, and prosperity. Air is a vertical triangle with a line through it, and air is associated with the very breath of life, or even the soul. And since air is pretty much essential for life, it kind of makes sense that this is also a symbol for the soul. Fire is a vertical triangle. It's just the triangle, and the fire is closely linked to strength and masculinity. It's also representative of change and as an aid to life. So a simple triangle is something that we see repeated throughout pagan and witch iconography. And so since it's an elemental symbol for fire, it also signifies strength, manliness, and change to aid one's life. Water is the inverted triangle, and it's also an image for healing, and purifying, and is often used in emotional rituals, as it can carry away negative energies, and just to promote healing. The next one is the Triskel. I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong. Anyways, it's a 3 interlocked spirals, or it looks like a three-point spiral with the, yeah. And in the Celtic world, the Triskel is found, or has been found, carved in Neolithic stones pretty much all over Ireland and Western Europe. And for modern pagans and Wiccans and witches, it's sometimes adopted to represent the 3 realms of earth, sea, and sky, or as the connection between the physical, the spiritual, and the celestial worlds. Now, I have a little mat that I use for my runes, and I use it because it's the physical, spiritual, and celestial worlds, as I'm doing a rune casting. Deities. People have been tattooing images of deities on themselves pretty much since they could start tattooing anything. Anything from, the saints to the gods or the goddesses, or any and all the above. And so the pagan path celebrates many of the gods and goddesses that can be portrayed in a symbolic tattoo design. Now, many folks that follow different traditions or paths will seek, or choose from a particular pantheon or a group of deities that could be from the Greek, Hindu, Chinese, Roman, Norse, or Celtic origins. Now, often if it's a god of choice, it may be Pan or Hern or Canunos, which may embody a lot of the aspects of masculinity or sexuality. And women will often choose, a representation of the triple goddess or the mother. And now you can borrow from one that fits your personality. There, whichever likeness it is. So like Epona is the Celtic horse god associated with personality and guiding upon your path. And Linus is a Celtic healing god. You can have one or both, to, whatever message it is or what you're trying to do. But, before you choose a deity to have tattooed upon you, make sure that you are doing some research, picking the right one. Because if you pick, have a death god tattooed upon you and you're trying to promote life, that's a little counterintuitive. Just do your research. Make sure you're choosing one that is appropriate to you and has meaning to you. Don't just pick something willy-nilly and hope it has meaning. It's like having Chinese scripting written on yourself, and then you find out later.
Would you like fries with that?
Yeah, it says something really not what you intended. So the next one is dragons. So dragons are generally considered noble or intelligent or wise in many cultures around the world. Just all over, and they're considered some of the most powerful and luckiest creatures in folklore, regardless of your tradition or your path or your culture and background. There is a branch of Wicca called Draconic Wicca, which combines Wicca and dragon magic. And just like calling on the gods and the goddesses, you may call upon dragons instead. Draconia, or draconic magic is a thing. I haven't made a decision or developed an opinion on that. It's a different thing. So a lot of those different dragons have different meaning. Water dragon, fire dragon, etc., etc. And if you're looking for assistance from, like, the red dragon, for instance, you'll want to, ask for some guidance before you choose a red dragon. And dragon tattoos are pretty much, everybody will get dragon tattoos all the flippin' time. And they're from every culture imaginable, just about. You're not gonna. So everybody keeps asking Don in chat room if he has any tattoos, and he keeps.
And I'm answering right now. As a matter of fact, yes, I do have tattoos. They are basically prison style tattoos. Not that I was in prison. Anybody who watches our show knows I used to be a CO, but no, I did not get them from the residents of the prisons. I had them before, but at the time, and we're having a discussion about how important it is to make sure that they have meaning. Well, at the time they have meaning, but over the time we've drifted away from those meanings, and they mean nothing now. It was a childish thing to do for me, like piercing my ears and piercing my tongue and growing my hair long and all that kind of stuff. It was rebellion, and they don't mean anything.
You used to have a mullet?
Oh yeah. I was like, yeah. I used to have hair down to my butt. But my tattoos are block work that can be easily covered over. And I've thought about it, but and Nessie Monster says, it's hard to get those. That's why I never really embellished the ones I have, is because by the time I really started thinking about it, I didn't want them anymore. And she mentions also that, because it's permanent. It's going to be there for the rest of your life. If it's not something you mean, you don't want to see it later, then don't do it, which is exactly what you were just talking about. So there's my answer. Yes, I had a mullet back in the mid 80s, and then I just grew it out Thrasher style. So yes, Nessie.
It's, yeah, that flash art, some of it is, I don't know. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. It's
I don't
just
know what
flash
art is.
Flash art's the pre-printed stuff.
Oh.
Often as you flip through the pages, it's
Yeah.
kind of like pulling out of the coloring book.
No, I want to get my dragon tattoos
Mm-hmm.
on my upper thighs, kind of like a Falco from Neverending Story, but a little more scrimshawish, Japanese stylish. But my tattoos were at the time kind of gang related, I guess. But as I said, that's one of those things that I walked away from, and it means nothing to me. So
I just don't know if I can look at you the same gang related. Okay.
kind of. I mean, we weren't like a violent gang or anything, but it was a gang
you
of
a
guys
mall
that
rat?
were. No, God, no. We dated the mall rats, or maybe the ratettes.
The Ratettes.
I don't know if dating's the correct word either.
Oh dear. No, so yeah, that's something else. Make sure the symbology that you're choosing for your tattoo is
Yep,
something that's
yep.
going to have meaning for you over the long term. I totally understand why people get like their children's birthdays tattooed on them,
things like
or
that, yeah.
or memorial tattoos. I think that's pretty cool, in remembrance of. But just be aware of what they might mean later. So the next one to talk about is celestial type tattoos, sun, moon, stars, that kind of thing. Often very common in the pagan world. Often people will try to get a celestial type tattoo in an energy point, just to help you focus your energy during meditation. And you want to place this kind of a design someplace where you can see it, like the inner arm, your leg, your ankle. Just someplace to have as a focal point for your chant or everyday inspiration. A lot of the moon gods and goddesses that might be associated with witchcrafts, like Hecate or Isis, are often popular choices as well. So, just whatever it is. I've seen some that look like necklaces or bracelets or rings or anything like that, and they're really cool. But still, pay attention. Is that really the thing you want? Because sometimes we start with one deity and we end up working with a different deity down the road. And do you want to change your tattoos up to note that, or what are you gonna do? So astrology. Often when it comes to astrology, you may choose your own astrological sign. Totally understandable. You may choose astronomy even and get a different constellations, tattooed upon you. Just be aware that you're actually getting the right ones, and you understand what the meaning is. Hecate's wheel, which this is kind of one from the Greek origins for Hecate. She was considered the protector of the crossroads before moving into more magic and sorcery. And so the maze inside of the wheel generally represents the power of knowledge and life, and is very, very commonly associated with Hecate. You could do the Wheel of the Year. It's just a basic wheel with the eight represents the 8 Sabbats of the pagan calendar, and the center is derived from the sun. And it's got the circle around it that's all encompassing. You have just the most bizarre expression on your face.
It's because I'm reading the chat.
Okay.
So jets. That's for Elaine.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Jets.
Animal bones and skulls are often tattooed upon oneself, because animal bones are very, very commonly associated with witches and witchcraft, and bones can be used for a variety of things, from divination to spell casting. They may be part of sacrifices, or just to enjoy the aesthetics of bones, and and having them around for decoration. Don, you're so weird.
It's not my fault. I got a bunch of beardos that follow me around.
Yeah, apparently you do. Fan of the opera. Oh, goodness. A broomstick. I've seen people with broomsticks, which is kind of funny. It's kind of a dead giveaway, just like having a wand is a dead giveaway for a lot of pagans and witches. Witches and broomsticks and wands kind of all go hand in hand. Moon phases, again, the crescent moons, the waxing, the waning, all of that. They're very important to witchcraft. So, it's important to know what the differences are if you're, working in magic of any kind. So there's 5 major moon phases: new moon, waxing moon, full moon, waning moon, and dark moon. And each of the different phases comes with different kind of energies. So if you're looking to conjure or cast a certain spell, different phases may help you when you do that. And having them tattooed upon you is often, just a way to keep that in your mind or in the forefront of your mind. Runes, staves, those are often commonly used as tattoos. Just make sure that, just like any other foreign language, you're making sure that whatever formula you're using really means what you think it means. You don't necessarily want fries with that in runic script or supersize me or something like that. Well, depending on where you want it.
Your name.
Yeah, your name. So.
Supersize me.
So, just be aware. And then, tarot. A lot of people use tarot cards or tarot imagery in tattoos. And depending on what you're trying to accomplish and what you want, tarot may be appropriate. Just make sure what you're using or what which cards you're using actually have meaning for you. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of different artwork and choices when it comes to tattoos. Just, I guess my biggest recommendation really is to do your research before you do it. Don't be afraid to interview different artists before you choose, and make sure you're looking at their artwork, the things that they're doing originally, not just their books of flash. The 3-ring binders that they keep out that the newbies will flip through.
That you found your acorn in.
Yep, that's where I found my acorn. Hey, I actually like my acorn.
Well, that's a bit different because it was a simple thing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I suppose I could have made it more complicated, but how do you complicate an acorn?
You grow Groot out of it.
Hey, just because Groot's pretty freaking awesome. Speaking of Groot, it's December. I would have expected Groot's leaves to kind of turn color and fall off by now.
No, it's too young. Usually they'd be tendered by deer by now.
But still, anyways, he's got his leaves still. I'm kind of surprised.
Something real quick I want to bring up about tattoos, though, is and this is something that I've been picking up, but Aerith Harger, is that his name, Harger? Aerith?
Yeah.
So anyhow, he did a video about Viking tattoos, specifically men Viking tattoos, and he was talking about how really he said they really didn't have tattoos. They did more scarification. And but it wasn't necessarily to a cult like Odin or Cnunos or whoever that is, so it wasn't to a cult, it wasn't to Loki, it wasn't necessarily, they were all personal. They weren't like a gang tattoo, everybody gets the same tattoo. It's not that way. All tattoos were personal. Everything was personal to that person. It may be a rune, like the Odin's rune, or it may be, whatever, but it was all personalized. And it was very rare to actually see them way back in the day. As I said, from what I understand, most of it was scarification, but that was few and far between too. So when you're watching movies and they have these massive tattoos and things like that, that's inaccurate. If they had tattoos at all, it was like ancestor names, maybe who they identify with, and that'd pretty much be about it. So, interesting. They really did keep it to a minimum. Very rare.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of Hollywoodization
Yes.
of tattoo interpretation on early cultures.
Right. Well, and on the portal, we were talking about Maori. As a matter of fact, Nessie Monster is the one that brought it up. We were talking about, we briefly mentioned Maori tattoos and their facial. They, as far as I understand, and I may be slightly off, but I do believe it's the different levels of manhood and warrior. You know, they gain tattoos as they gain stature through the system and things like that. So, yeah, you were talking about tattoos earlier about the high priestesses. You know, you said that, what's her name? Yeah.
Candy.
Had, you know, the triple moon. Was it the triple moon? Yeah.
Yeah, she
So,
had the triple moon and stars.
oh, Nessie says I feel famous. Well, you're going to feel even better because we're going to use your story for a specific thing. So, but, you know, but they meant something. They really meant something. It was part of their culture. And it is what, you know, they grew to aspire to, is to have those tattoos, and they meant something. They even have, you know, regarding their elders and things like that. So yeah, it's very important to imagine what it is, what the association is. I wouldn't care so much what people say about them. I'm gonna go jump in a lake, and that's just being nice. So yeah, it's very important to pay attention, do your research, find a good tattoo artist. You're right. Don't look at his common stuff. Look at his original stuff, you know. So, and talk with them, and you know, maybe even find one that shares a common link and that kind of thing. So, and there's a lot of them out there. So,
Yeah. Yep. So, do your research. Practice safe internet. You know, because that's
Safe
important.
internet.
Yeah, safe internet. And you know, don't write "Super Size Me" in you know, angelic font upon your biceps. So,
oh, that's funny. Okay, close your
So,
show, dear.
so yeah, that's the end of the night, guys. So tonight thanks for joining me. We talked about tattoos, and you know, if you want to send me pictures of your tattoos, I'll put them on my Facebook page.
As long as they're not in weird places.
If they are in weird places,
I got tattoos in
Anyways,
all the wrong
so,
places.
Also, just real quick, did you know that if you have a tattoo and you want your family to remember it, they can actually take it off of you when you die.
They'll tan it.
They'll tan it and put it in a frame to give to your loved ones,
Right.
which is bizarre. We're weird people,
Anyhow.
I tell you. All right, so thanks, guys, for joining me tonight. We'll see you next week. Friday night, we've got The Hypnotist.
Thought it was Saturday.
It's on the 20th.
Okay,
which is
fine,
Friday.
whatever.
So, look forward to seeing you. Merry meet and merry part and merry meet again. And I hope you all have a very lovely Saturday.
Bye.
Bye, all. I gotta hit the button.